baby, we're back. Hey, fellow babies, welcome back. So today we're going to get started on the framing on the walls in here. And this is probably going to be more or less, well, less of a how-to video and more of a, this is what I wound up kind of doing video. Because as I've been piddling around in the van, I'm finding that everything I think I know is wrong. Plain and simple. It's just flat wrong. Yeah, you look at an empty van and you're like, oh, yeah, I can frame up walls in there and throw that up in half an hour, blah, blah, blah. No, it's not going to be that simple. And I've already had quite an adventure just getting the bolts or the machine screws for the riv nuts. So I'll tell you all about that as we get into it. But today is July 5th. Yesterday was our U.S. independence for those of you across the pond that might be following along here. And, you know, boy, is it dry around here. So there's been firework bans and fire bans in place for a long time. And just south of here, about 30 miles, is a fire that is about 70,000 acres big, and it's threatened a whole bunch of towns over there. And the firefighters have been doing a fabulous job sparing those little towns. And I'm happy for that because I know a lot of people that live over there in those little towns, namely one of my good friends and his family. They live on opposite ends of that fire, and both of their places are being threatened right now, along with some other friends that I've known for a while since I've been here, you know, living in the center of that area. So, you know, whatever your religious preference is or whatever, or superstitions, cross your fingers, keep these people in your thoughts, and pray for them if you're into that kind of thing. Just, yeah, keep these folks in their thoughts because that fire is nasty. It's, I believe I was reading today that it's the 8th biggest in history. So, yeah, not good. But don't worry, my place is not threatened, so we're all good for me. But I'm keeping these other folks in my thoughts. But anyway, aside from all that heavy stuff, we're going to do some framing in here today. And let me show you some of the frustrations I've already come up with. So, enough yakking on this, and let's get cracking. So, this is where my frustrations have started beginning. Yeah, there's a few frustrations and a couple of other things that I've done thus far, but this one is probably going to be a little bit more frustrating. So just like anybody else doing a build or something like that, you watch tons of YouTube videos for a little research to see how other people are doing things, and everybody does everything differently. Nothing's the same, which is fine. I mean, it's all do it yourself, right? So one of the big frustrations I came up with so far is, of course, you know, we're going to do riv nuts. That's what everybody does, or most everybody does, is riv nuts. You put the little rivet nut in the hole, and then you drill holes in your board, and then you mount it to it with a machine screw. Cool. Well, since this vehicle is not made in the U.S., nothing in here is in freedom units. It's all metric, which, hey, I don't have any problem with metric. Metric's easy to deal with. But you go to the hardware store to find machine screws in metric here. Oh, no. Yeah, you get like a handful of bolts here or there, and they're 10 times the price of anything measured in freedom units. So that's been frustrating. So now I've got a handful of all kinds of mismatched headed metric machine screws that we're going to put in here. So yeah, there's some Phillips head stuff, there's some hex head stuff. It's just nah. But anyway, that's the plan, is we're going to run riv nuts in a bunch of these holes on the sides over here and such. Maybe now you can see it. But these holes are all different sized. And I'm trying to avoid drilling any more holes in here. So it's probably going to be inevitable that I'm going to have to drill some holes, but we shall see. So let me show you how we're going to get these riv nuts in here and what the overall plan is. So whether this plan is going to work out or not, I don't know. So the idea is to use these little fellas right here. This is an M8. This is a metric 8. And this is what I found fits best. These hex size holes are pretty evenly spaced all through here on the main beams on the side, at the top, and the middle. And then these are the ones that fit the best. I really wanted to go with standard so that way I could just get a handful of bolts and, for relatively cheap and do that, but not going to be possible. So the plan is I'm going to run a 1x4 down this rail and then down that rail, nice and blurry. So we're going to run it down here and then we're going to fill in between. So at the bottom, we got some of these other holes, but they're not the size of this M8. I thought they were the size of an M6 because, why not, right? So I bought a bunch of M6 machine screws. Well, as it turns out, my M6 riv nut's not going to fit in there, so I'm going to have to go with something smaller. So that means another trip to the hardware store, and then $30 worth of bolts that I've already spent is going to go to waste. Yeah, it's going to create a nice challenge because if I ever need to redo any framing in here, which I really shouldn't. Nah, I really shouldn't. So, I'm going to have a mix of all different types of machine screws in here. It's not the way I want to do it, but it's kind of the way I have to do it. So all down this rail, I'm going to take a 1x4 and I'm going to go up to the pillar because this pillar juts out about an inch or 3/4 of an inch. And so that way I can kind of make that a little bit more flush with everything else. I really kind of want the walls to be fairly just straight, but we're going to see what we wind up with in the end. But to do a riv nut is really simple. You just size it to the hole that you want it to go in, just like so. So this M8 works, and I'm going to do every other one, or maybe every third one all the way down. I don't need a whole lot of attachment because all of this is going to wind up being attached and screwed and glued together. But I got this riv nut tool, actually an entire kit off of Amazon for about 40 bucks. Wasn't too bad. And it has a whole bunch of different riv nuts of all different sizes and different mandrels that you can change out. So reading the instructions, I am told that you start out with your mandrel on this tool wide open, and then you run your riv nut down on it like so. Poke it in the hole, and then while you're nice and straight, you just squeeze it together all the way, as tight as you can get it. And then you open it and close it a couple of times. And you really can't see it on camera, and I'll show you a closer up view. But it unscrews that right out of there if you do that about 2 or 3 times. And that little guy is in there really tight. And what it does is it takes the back side and it flares it out and traps it in this metal. So let me show you a close-up. Just like that. So I'm just going to put some of those riv nuts in various spots all over the place. And I won't get a whole lot done today because I had only just a handful of those in my kit, and I had to order some more, and they were supposed to come in on Friday, and today is now Sunday, and they won't be here till tomorrow is what I'm finding out now. So So this is the crap I was talking about. I got a whole bunch of M8 riv nuts on order that'll be here tomorrow. Now it doesn't look like I'm really going to need those. So what am I going to do? As you can see on this side, there's none of these hex holes here that'll accommodate an M8. So an M6 does not fit. An M5 does not fit. It just pulls right out. I tested on one of these holes up here. So now my only recourse is to drill this out, which is what I didn't want to do. That's going to stifle some of the work I plan on doing today. I wanted to get some lumber in here, but we're only going to get just a little bit of lumber in here, thanks to this. So I got to drill all these out that I want, where I want a bolt to go. And then I have to paint every one of those holes before I can come back in here and put a riv nut in it. But you know what? That's okay. I'd rather do it right the first time. So if you're going to drill into sheet metal, after you've got a floor or whatever in, and there's all kinds of little cubbies down here, so that's going to have a place to harbor all kinds of little metal shavings. So to prevent as much of that as possible, use a vacuum, and a step bit will get you a cleaner cut. Now it fits. Another good thing about using a step bit is it's going to be guaranteed. Well, not necessarily guaranteed. It just depends on your aptitude. But you know how a drill bit grabs metal whenever you get through it, and then it sucks the drill bit all the way in there. This will keep you from punching a hole through the side or putting extruding a dent out that way. So now I'm going to do all of that, and once I get done, I'm also going to go use my nozzle in there to suck up all of the metal shavings. Great. I went on ahead and drilled these out to accommodate an M8, just so that way all my horizontals at least can be an M8. So I did that on the upper and the bottom. All the rest of this stuff, I drilled it all out everywhere I needed to put an M6. So I'm going to run a bunch of M6s in here now. But it's super hot right now. I'm gonna go take a water break, and then we'll start cutting some boards to stick up in here, and I'll show you what I'm gonna do to do that and see how that works out. I don't know. We'll find out, but break time anyway. I don't know how much longer I'm gonna get to work today. There's rain building over there, and we need the rain really bad, so I'm not gonna complain about that. But anyway, let's move along. Do what we can while we can. So a lot of the YouTube videos I've watched is most everybody gets Baltic birch because of the plies and the marine grade adhesive that holds all of that together. And while that's all fine and dandy, man, if you want to spend that $100 a sheet, go for it. But I'm just using an upgraded 1x4. It's just a clean grade 1x4. I get the whole expansion contraction thing and the whole marine grade this and that because of the extreme temperature swings that this thing is going to go through. But man, a house is built out of this kind of stuff. And that expansion contraction, you hear the pops and creaks in the house. Yeah, it's minimal. It's not really going to make that big of a deal, honestly. And besides all that, I'm trying to be budget conscious, and already the stuff that I've purchased here, I'm getting pretty close to that. So top grade pine is what I'm going to frame this guy out with. I've seen plenty of builds with it, never heard any complaints. I just don't see the reason to spend that extra kind of money. But if you want to, cool. That's you. Do it. So I run some machine screws here with a Phillips head in all these M8 riv nuts. That's the word I was looking for. I've run those in there, and the idea is I'm going to take this board. I've already measured it and cut it for the length of this rail. And the idea up here is because since pine's a little softer, I'm going to hold it up against those, and I'm going to press on them real hard, maybe even whack it with a mallet, but that's going to make it move. I'm going to press it against there, and that's going to mark where my holes need to be drilled. So let's see if that works. And I marked my board which direction goes to the front because these aren't evenly spaced, and which direction goes up. So that way when I come to put it back in here, I know where it goes. So I'm going to make sure I got it as straight as I want it. And I'm just going to grab this and squeeze the heck out of it. Sweet. That gave me the marks I was looking for. So I'm going to mark them. For drilling. There we go. Got those marked. I'm going to use a paddle bit. I'm going to just drill it through here, but on this side, I'm going to use a paddle bit so I can recess the head of that bolt in there. So I'm going to do that, and I'll be right back. There we go. So let's see here. Let's see how well I did. I made my holes a little larger than I needed just because it would give me a little room to play with it. So I'm cranking down this last one here. I'll share with you what I learned. It was easier just to hold it up there and then move my hands up along the thing, trying to keep it as level as possible and give it a good squeeze. That good squeeze allowed that Phillips head to put an indent in here and that's worked out pretty well. So do this other one down here, and then I guess I'm going to call it a day, because I really don't want to do much of anything else until I get the other horizontals in, and I have to wait for those parts tomorrow. So yeah, we'll carry on for now.